I'd like to call in order the meeting of the St. Augustine Port, Waterway, and Beach District. Today is May 21st, 2019. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Here.
Commissioner Rivers.
Here.
Commissioner Way.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Flowers.
Here.
Okay. Approval of the minutes held on April 16, 2019. I looked them over. I thought they were fine, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve them. Any corrections or anybody have anything to say about it? Nope. Okay.
I'll second it.
Yeah. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Engineering report.
I'll start with the Summerhaven River Restoration Project.
Hang on.
Okay.
We skipped the Secretary and Treasurer's report.
Do you want to?
We'll do it. Okay.
Okay, so of the city police law enforcement overtime, of the $8,000 committed, we have spent $1,480 to date. The St. Johns County Sheriff's Department overtime, of the $20,000 committed, we have spent $34.77. The derelict boats, we have spent $9,031. We budgeted for the COs, which we paid. The navigational aid repairs, we paid $74.89 of the $10,000 that was budgeted. And I think that would be it right now. And the Florida State Board of Administration Fund A, we have $22,625. In the operating account, we have $313,665. In the money market account, we have $1,929,447. The Summer Haven account balance, as of today, has $126,293. I believe Rich will have one more bill, and that'll bring it down. And then of the taxes budgeted, we budgeted $526,000 for our taxes, and we received $499,000, and we're expecting $26,923, hopefully.
Right. Any questions with regard to the Secretary Treasurer's report?
And right now, we just started the audit process for the year. They are now auditing the port. And then when they're done, we're going to start the trim process.
All right.
What was the second part of that? I'm sorry. When they're done, you're going to start the what process?
Trim process.
Trim? Okay.
Okay. Now we're up to the engineering report.
Okay, the Summerhaven project. The contractor later today will reach the point of substantial completion. That means they've dredged as far north as they're going to go. They're going to walk the dredge back down and clean up any high spots, put that sand back on the beach. So over the next couple of weeks, they will get an as-built survey, and if there's any spots that still need touching up, the dredge will still be on site to get those spots, and they'll be doing the final grading of all the sand that's been placed out there and restoring any sea oats or vegetation that they've impacted on top of the dune. So they are substantially complete, but still a couple more weeks of cleanup work to do.
Okay.
So they were supposed to be complete the last two meetings, and we're still at a point of incompleteness. That's not really normal, is it?
Hard to define normal when working on these projects. You are correct that we thought that we were going to be done at this point the last 2 months.
Well, I guess the question is, then what happened, and why aren't we done yet? Because it does cost us when we don't finish on time, then we're still doing the bird mitigation and all this stuff. Money is still coming from the taxpayers.
No, it's not. The project not being done is hurting the contractor more than anyone else. It's not costing anyone any more money. They have a contract. They have to finish the job in the amount of money that they are contracted for. So the longer they are out there, that's more wear and tear on their equipment, more money he's paying his personnel.
I understand.
So it's
Well, But last time you were here, we needed to approve like $22,000 because we had gone over the time limit and now had to go back and remitigate, extend the permits. And that was $22,000. We haven't gotten a bill for that, and I do recall asking you for that data. So if I could get a bill. A matter of fact, I actually asked, I said, I'd like to see everything on this project. If I need to sit in writing, I can do it. But I need to see, the port has absolutely nothing on the project. So if I could have basically your whole file on the expenditures and who got the money and for what, would be nice, as an invoice.
Yeah, I will give you a breakdown of all
Okay.
the invoices that I've sent Elise, a breakdown
So-
of all the funding.
Again, last two meetings, we were told it would be done by the time we met again. It's not done. So, I mean, what do we do to complete the project? We haven't had bad weather. What has occurred?
It's it's had to do with personnel issues and equipment issues with the contractor.
Equipment issues again? Because see, that 8-inch pipe is probably a big problem, isn't it? When it should be a 12-inch. Is it broken down again?
Well, I mean, a 12-inch would be more efficient. The problem is with a bigger dredge, you probably couldn't get a bigger dredge on this project because they wouldn't fit under the bridges.
Okay, I'm checking on that. We're talking about a cutter head suction with a long pipe that goes over to the beach, right? Is that what y'all are using out there for the dredging the river?
That's correct.
Okay, and it's an 8-inch pipe? Okay, so anyways, back to the question is, when can we ever look forward to this finishing if we've got, so the equipment is down now, is that correct?
No, it's up and running now.
Okay,
So I'm told 2 to 3 weeks to finish everything here.
and so what happens if it doesn't occur? The people are just stuck?
I'm sorry, if what doesn't occur,
What
if the
happens if
project
it
is not
doesn't
done?
occur? Again, this is the third time we've been pushed back, we've had no weird weather. I would think everybody's out there working. Do the people, are we just expected to do nothing? And at some point, does the contractor become liable to us for not finishing the contract in a timely manner?
Typically, the contract would have, the term is, I think it's called liquidated damages, that if the contractor not completing the job on time actually costs the client money, if there's a financial hardship, then you can go to the contractor and claim the liquidated damages that are in the contract. They're not meant to be a penalty, so, just because the contractor isn't done on time, you can't penalize them through that clause.
Well, if we have to
So-
go and hire someone else to finish the job because it's never getting finished, is the dredge still there on site, you say?
Yes,
Okay, it's going to remain there on site till it's done, and we've got
Till-
a few weeks. But if they can't get it finished, maybe we should hire somebody else, and then it does become how much it cost us. I know you think that's funny, but the people are still waiting. I know, and this is how we've done business for a long time, but it's not acceptable. It'd be nice if next time we met, the project would be done and completely done. Because, I mean, when did y'all, it goes back to 2014 plus some storms.
2016 is when we started this after Hurricane Matthew.
Right,
So,
but there
yeah.
was a project before that in this spot, was there not?
Not related
Before
to, not related to this project that we're working on.
but I'm saying there was a dredging project going on there in the Summer Haven River. Was there not?
Not within the Summerhaven River.
Okay.
The Corps of Engineers find that they've dredged the intercoastal waterway and put the sand on the beach, but
Okay.
yeah, there has not been a Summerhaven River project before this one.
Well, just speaking for my constituency, we'd sure like this project to be done. And I would like all the paperwork on it. I'd like every single note that you have, everything that is accessible to you in that file. I'd like a copy of it because it's actually the people's file. And I thank you very much, as soon as you could.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anything else on your report?
If there's no more
Marcus?
questions on Summerhaven River, I can move to Salt Run.
Yeah.
Last time you asked me to look into the floating aids as opposed to the fixed markers.
Right.
And I did speak to the Coast Guard. They said that it's about a 6-month process, give or take a little bit, to change your authorized aids from one to the other. So with that, I spoke to Commissioner Benjamin, and he directed me to go ahead and get Bacon Marine out there to to replace the number 3 and number 6 that were down. So Bacon did that last week, so that is done. So I'm not sure if you want to talk about floating versus fixed aids or not.
Probably a price, what it actually costs and all. And, the reason I made the decision to go ahead and replace it, because we're in cruising season, and that's it's a safety thing. I didn't want to wait 6 months to put markers up, and with the chance that it may or may not be approved as far as lighted markers. So anyway, if you could just...
I'm sorry, is that something that the board could discuss and vote on? Or is that something...
That was a decision that I made, okay, as the chairman.
No, sir, I remember us voting on that money to be spent, actually.
We had up to $11,000 to spend. If the markers could have been done at that timely fashion, lit, and $11,000 would cover it, I would have said, go ahead and do it.
I understand, that's not what I'm
Just a
asking,
minute.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, I'm not finished talking, okay? So wait. And I made the decision as the chairman to spend the money that we needed to spend to have the markers put back the way they've been for the last few years. Because we're in cruising season, didn't want to take a chance on somebody having an accident, and that's what we did.
Where in the charter do you get that authority, sir?
Why don't you look it up?
I do. I've read every word of it.
All right.
All right, I'll pass it on. Now, you're making a decision to do, what is your decision about the floating markers? The chairman has made that decision on his own without a discussion or a vote from the board.
That's an emergency situation when you have markers down.
It's not we voted on that, sir, and that was already proved. I am talking about your decision to prolong and not have a discussion today about these floating markers.
And wait
You just
another-
made that decision to wait another 6 months instead of the board voting on whether or not we wanted to address that.
I didn't say, excuse
You
me.
just told him you'd wait another 6 months to discuss. Let's pull up the audio.
Yeah, let me explain something to you, okay?
Please do.
I didn't
Please
say
do.
anything about waiting 6 months. It may take up to 6 months to get an approval from the Coast Guard whether or not they will allow us to put floating...
So we're going to wait to
markers up.
discuss it, was the point. And my point is, why are you making a decision for the board whether or not we discuss it now or months from now? That is all.
Because that is my prerogative to do.
Okay, and I'm telling you that it is not your prerogative to decide what's discussed in front of this board.
You're being disruptive, okay? So stop. That's
I
enough.
will continue to do what I've been elected to do, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what.
At every single meeting, I'm going to come and I'm going to do that.
I think that's enough right now. Let's move on to another subject. Okay, go ahead.
That's it for the engineering report.
Okay, thanks. Any discussion as far as any other board members with regard to the markers?
Yeah, John, who keeps hitting the thing? I mean, does anybody know what happens? I mean, how do you hit that thing 3 times in, 6 months?
Either they're not getting jetted in deep enough, like the rest of the markers, or since Florida doesn't require boating licenses, you get these boaters that come out, don't know how to drive boats and hit them and knock them over.
The Coast Guard told me they're having the same problems with a lot of their federal markers as well. It's not just Salt Run.
What is involved with what is involved in the actual process of changing the approvals from the standard pilings to the floating?
There's a short application form you have to fill out. And, I mean, it's really minimal effort on the Port District's part. You have to fill out the form, submit it to the Coast Guard, and just coordinate with them back and forth when they have questions and wait for them to review it. So that process takes about 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Is that something you could price out for us, though? I'd be really curious to know, for instance, not just getting through the application process, but then what it would cost to replace, I don't know, all the markers in Salt Run? I mean,
I can, well, I mean, we've worked with the Coast Guard in other areas of Florida. It usually costs us about $2,500 to fill out this application form to get a marker changed. You
have to apply for each individual marker at the Coast Guard?
No.
Okay.
We could do Salt Run as a whole.
Okay.
The more expensive part will be doing an engineering analysis to make sure that the floating aids are anchored correctly, because some other inlets in Florida, they've moved from floating to fixed markers because they had problems with their floating aids getting off the mark a lot, so they always have to go back out there and re-anchor them. So if you're going to do this, you want to make sure that they're properly anchored. So that engineering analysis would probably be in the neighborhood of $7,000 if Taylor Engineering did that. So you have that part of it, then you have the $2,500 for the application form. Mm-hmm. There may be a little bit more if we have to redo any kind of engineering drawings, but that's the ballpark cost is, probably $10,000 to $15,000. That's just to get the design and permit authorized. That does not include the cost of the floating markers themselves.
Right. Josh, you had also suggested the possibility of lights on the markers?
Instead of putting the floating ones there, could you just light the fixed ones we have? Like
That's-
the red and green Coast Guard?
I don't see why not. I'm
Instead of
sure.
buying a whole new marker, just add light, the correct lighting to the markers that are already there.
Yeah, and I think that's the same application form that you'd have to submit to the Coast Guard.
You would need to get an approval from the Coast Guard to do that as well. Okay. But minus the engineering cost, because presumably there would be
Correct.
no study there. Okay.
Can you
I
tell,
only think if you guys light them, you would be able to see them, because if you go through there now at night, unless you have an experienced boater that knows what to look for, it's dark through there.
you literally hit it by the time you see it, yeah. Can you tell me, I'm sorry, Mike, you mentioned these not being jetted in. I thought we were paying the 6,000 plus on putting these in by pounding, which Mr. Way said they had to be in by pounding or they just fall over.
Yes.
So is that not what we paid for, was the pounding in?
No, we are paying for that. They are using 40-foot-long pilings, so they're going at least 15, 20 feet deep into the sand. So,
Well, you gotta hit that. I mean, I've seen it happen, a big enough boat will lay it right over. Yeah, 15 feet, wow. So they are being pounded, and that's the best we can do.
right.
There's so much muck. There's probably 8 feet, 9 feet of just silt before you even get to anything. I mean, you gotta pound them in, but.
Do you have a sense?
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to know, do you have a sense of how much it would cost to light these things? I mean, $2,500 for permitting, but then how much on top of that to light them? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can't imagine it's very much to install some lights.
Right.
So Bacon Marine, they've been, if it takes them a day, so a day for them in the field is running $5,000 to $6,000. So I don't know if it'll take them a couple days to get all those pilings lit or get the lights installed, but that's a guess.
We'd have to put that out for a bid anyway.
That's not my call.
I mean, if we did work
Not
on,
required to bid.
I'm sorry?
The port is not required to bid.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the recent experience with marine contractors is when Mike bids, usually only gets one response anyway. Is that right?
Yes, we've tried to bid different projects in the past, and we only get one, maybe two bids. And I mean, some projects lately, after Matthew and Irma, everyone's so busy, sometimes we don't get any bids. So
There were many bids on the Summerhaven dredging project I saw.
there was 4 bids.
Quite a few,
Yes.
at least a lot more than one.
Right, 2 of those bids were within our budget, and one was at the I think the other 2 were out of budget, so,
So
yeah.
do you normally just do the lowest bidder when you do that?
We like to do lowest qualified bidder, because if you just go with the lowest bidder, you normally end up with someone that doesn't know what they're doing, and
So
you
you
have all kinds of
have
problems.
you have the flexibility to do that. The port just is not forced into this lowest, okay.
Yeah.
So should we consider at least trying to explore the possibility of lighting these things? I mean, they're backed
Yeah,
up.
I asked him to find out a price on lighting.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So we'll have that info maybe by the next meeting then?
I can get it to you for the next meeting, yes.
Great.
Are those solar powered typically? They are?
I think so. I'm not positive. I imagine they are, but
Battery.
I
I know they're not running power to them.
I mean, if there's different options, I can get prices for all different options and report back to you next month.
I don't think it'd be necessary to light every one of them. I'm hesitant to put any of them green. They'll just think, well, I can go right there, there's a green light, and I'll just hit that one. I don't know how they can slam into a channel marker. I don't know. Anyway,
Is that it, Mike?
That's it.
Okay. Nothing on old business. Okay. Teddy, Doug Crane boat ramp improvements.
Afternoon, Teddy Meyer, Parks and Recreation. got a packet for you guys.
Thank you, sir.
So, and our county engineer, Bill Freeman's here to answer any technical questions that I'm probably in no way, shape, or form able to. So we, back in, I believe, probably late fall, we started to kind of look to renew. We worked on our waterway access management program for the county, and then we started to work on identifying options for funding and ramps. And we came initially to talk about Doug Crane because we saw it as a pretty viable option. The first page you'll note is just kind of details that from October and June. And then the Doug Crane improvements, kind of like a cheat sheet, if you will, on the front page. The idea and the plan for the project: 2 aluminum gangways, 2 floating docks, and expansion of the overflow parking. The cost estimate was from a previous project, the Riverdale Boat Ramp, which we completed last year after, I believe it was Irma, maybe? Matthew. And then the design, for the project, the plans right there are from Bill, who's here, if you have any questions. And then the last packet you'll find is a active quote on Doug Crane, so you can have a bit of a better idea on exactly what the dollars and cents are. The estimated full design is $20,000. We have a continuing contract with Gulfstream for 3 other projects, 4? Palmetto, Volano, Palm Valley East, and there's one more. Remember the other one? 4? There's 3. There's an estimate of $10,000 for ADA and parking access improvements at Doug Crane, and there's $20,000 from the original. If you look at this page here, it obviously has 6 and 8 foot wide options. We think 10 foot probably makes more sense based on the survey. So that would be an additional $20,000. So on our side, on the Parks and Rec end, we're looking to use 50% for the project for the fee, from fee bid reserves that we have access to now and/or impact fees. And then we would like to ask the board for the other 75, whether it's now or completion of projects, as you guys see fit.
Sounds good to me, but let me ask you, isn't this something we could apply to fine for? Get a fine grant on this? Engineering, what do you think?
I think we probably could. I mean, Fine's always telling us they have money available.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's a good project. When are you looking to do something?
Well, I mean, we have the ability to do it by the end of the year, scheduled out and things like that, as far as activate the money and things like that, so.
I think all the grants are closed for this year. I think they closed in April.
Would it be possible to have some time to review this? Or is this something that's going to come up for a vote?
No, I mean, so the idea, so one of the issues that we have is that all the meetings, we'd like a Commissioner Waldron, Commissioner Dean to come and speak. One of the issues is that all the Beachport Waterway meetings always can coincide with a BOCC meeting. So to have them come and speak a little bit more on the Waterway Access Program and things like that from their side is difficult. So that's one of the reasons we've come, but it's obviously, the idea is to bring you more concrete things over the course of the last few months. We have as concrete as we can probably get on that side. So I think now the question is for you guys to review and decide, and any questions you may have, whether it's now, whether it's next month.
Teddy, when the project's completed, what effect is it going to have on that facility? Like, I mean, how many more parking spaces, or, you know, I mean, what's the end result in relation to how it stands now?
So I think the end result, and I don't know, Bill, if you want to speak to some of the parking access increases, the bigger thing is probably the actual the setup of the parking, the actual like striping and bumpers and things like that. Because right now, as you know, Doug Crane is Millings, right? And then there's no ADA access if you actually go by ADA. There's 2 spaces, but the redesign of the parking access improvements would be substantial, and you'd actually have designated spots, which we don't have right now. Similar to Moultrie Bluff, which is kind of more segmented off, similar to Riverdale, stuff like that, so.
Yeah, just for clarification, this is an improvement, not an expansion. And same thing with the parking. There's no plans for expanding the parking, just improving what's there.
So there's no additional spots or anything? So at one time, they were talking about expanding that, right? Okay. So, right, so nobody in the neighborhood's going to mind at all because you're just improving it. Can I ask a question? You know how the city has this app that helps you park, tells you where to go, whatever? You know, this is not the only building we have right in the middle of a neighborhood, and, you know, there's not that many spaces. Is there a way to make a thing where people can know before they go it's full? Don't bother dragging it through the neighborhood, especially over at Salt Run.
Yeah, so on that side, there actually is an active RFP that the county's looking at with off-beach parking and boat ramps.
Oh, so they'll know if they're full?
So essentially, the idea would be there was one group, we don't know the application side of it, but the idea would be there would be one governing body that would then, you would have to pay the fee, and whatever the fee is, we're not really sure, but that's the initial idea of the conversation. And they had off-beach parking and boat ramps together in almost a Walmart effect to have more facilities, more sites to lower the cost overall the county would have to incur.
So they're looking at doing that, so someone would know whether or not it was worth dragging the boat through the neighborhood and just...
Well, I don't know if that side of it is going to be part of it, but I know the two are lumped together in an RFP. That much I can say.
You know, on page 1, it says on the estimated $20,000, Gulfstream Design says permitting an expansion of the boat ramps, and then further expansion of the parking facilities, and then a potential for a boat wash station, which would be nice, and associated park-like amenities. So that sounds like it's quite an improvement, not just to refresh what you have.
So, well, I think the expansion is more of the fact of like delineating the parking, maybe not, and that's probably the wrong word for it as far as expansion.
Marking it out, so they
It's
know where...
delineate,
yeah.
similar to what we're trying to do at Volano with our fine grant, is to actually bumper line number 1, 2, 3, all the way to 400, so they can figure out where the boat, what size the boat needs to be here and that kind of thing.
But what about the boat wash station and associated park-like amenities?
So associated park-like amenities would be similar like a picnic table, the boat wash, depending on location. And Doug Crane's difficult because of the in and out. One of the issues that Doug Crane has, which Commissioner Flowers has mentioned, is that it's one of the 2 ramps we have inside of a neighborhood. And because of the issues we have, I know Marine Patrol has spoken about the mooring fields and those kind of things. There's certain things we can add in there, there's certain things we can't. I think we'd love to add a bathroom, probably not a good idea, because now all of a sudden you're getting a lot of flow that's going the wrong way into that bathroom inside of a neighborhood.
Right.
So park-like amenities would be more like a pavilion, picnic tables, maybe an overlook type thing. And that may be phase 2 or phase 3. The initial idea is to increase the actual ability to launch your boat at Doug Crane.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, do
Yeah.
you guys anticipate this having any effect on the mooring field out there, one way or the other? Or is this even an opportunity to kind of address that situation?
I mean, for the Parks and Rec side, I think that's probably a bigger conversation with us.
Right.
I don't know, I mean, our conversations have been more on the fact that we just have to be careful with what we do there
Yeah.
because of that, because of the dinghies, and then the bikes are there, they pick the bike up, they go to the store, right? They come back from the store, they all share everything. So the question is, how do you limit that inside of a neighborhood? Because there's 2,200 homes in there, and that's a massive risk management issue. So that's part of the design, you know, what Gulfstream, because they're on a continuing contract with us, could help us do, considering the circumstances.
You know, I know you call it a mooring field. Actually, if it was a mooring field and we were servicing it, it probably wouldn't have the problems that we have now. And then the people could have nice things, and we all just really want to, I know, believe me, I don't know what the answer.
Right.
Somebody's got the answer, please tell me, but I sure hate throwing the baby out with the bathwater, too.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, we've got 40 mooring balls over in Salt Run that can't be used. I'm just throwing it out there every time we get a chance. We should do something about down there and bring it into the light and make some money. Just so you know, St. Petersburg wants $600 a month to sit on a mooring ball, and people pay it.
Yeah, obviously, I can't speak to much
Right,
of that.
just throwing it out there. Oh, is there a Porto Lad or Porto John or something over there?
There is one, I believe.
Okay, so for emergencies, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, any more discussion with regard to this? Let us talk about it, think about it.
Okay. Great. Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
If I have questions, Mr. Meyer, do I just address them to you or to the,
Yeah, you can address
Just
it
send
to
them
me, and Elise has my information. She
Okay,
can
very
forward that
good.
on. Thank you, guys.
All right, let's see. Proposed boat ramp, east in Hospital Creek, Commissioner Flowers.
Mr. Piggott gave us all a nice color picture. I had some black and whites, but this is way better. I was over there this morning, and as you guys can see, I wish we could put it up for everybody to see. Do we have ability to do that? To put it on the board, or?
Not on the fly, I don't imagine.
Okay. Anyways, as you guys notice, this is the May Street boat landing. I measure, it's almost 300 feet of parking along there where you see the cars. Before, where the mangroves, all the way back to the road, it's a lot of parking there. Who said it was a DOT easement?
It's DOT
On the
right away.
On the side of the road, of the highway, it's a state highway?
If you look at the blue line on the picture,
Right,
that's a port parcel of land, and everything north of it is highway until you get to the black line up here above the highway. That's, the city property starts there.
well, is that a state easement with the state road?
State road, yeah, A1A.
Okay, so if we were going to get permission basically to improve their property, we would have to go through the state?
DOT, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Mike, is that a big deal doing something like that? Applying to working within a public easement, engineering-wise?
You'd have to coordinate with DOT, but they, I don't think it's an issue. I think it can easily be done.
Just a matter of paperwork and getting permission to go on there? Because we only have, I think it's to July on this open permit. So I guess we'd need to vote on whether we want to move forward and see if we can get permission, but I thought it'd probably be a good idea to ask the city what they think too. Mr. Piggott's here today.
Jim?
Not my department, I have no idea.
Okay, that's good enough, okay.
I do know from past experience, DOT permits, and what I guess you'll be doing is modifying the parking there on the side somehow.
Or like repairing, I think it's,
There's a lot of hoops for parking, and since that's technically not approved parking, they may, don't know, I'm just guessing, they may throw a wrench in it.
why would you think it's not approved parking though?
I don't see any lines, I don't see any bumpers.
I mean, it's not laid out parking.
It's-
Right, but
it's
people,
not
I guess, been
approved
parking there for probably forever, huh?
Right, but it's not
Okay,
on the
it's not,
There's no
A state
ADA.
parking lot, I got you.
It's one of those things they turn a blind eye to because people use it.
Right.
I wonder what the situation would be if there was a ramp there, whether the DOT would require a light, or would they even allow you to put a light there? I know getting traffic lights is not an easy equation, from my understanding, but.
Yeah, at a minimum, they'd have to put a stop sign in. Well, is that, I mean, Mike, I assume you have a liaison at DOT, or you know people, you can talk to people at DOT, right, about this? You could at least get this conversation going?
Sure.
Could you maybe get in touch with whoever you would need to get in touch with, and at least maybe give us an idea of what would actually be involved to move forward with this?
Yeah, I can do that and report back to you next month.
That'll be good.
So little of it is actually on a port property, we have to ask them, the permit is from the Army Corps of Engineer, but I think we probably have to ask them for everything. There's only a little slice that belongs to us. And if you go down by the river, it kind of cuts over and almost cuts off the actual landing where the concrete is already laid there now. And over over by the 3 cars, if you notice that, that's where the drainage thing is, so we'd have to look at probably getting, dealing with, that's what, so that pretty much drains the whole thing right out there into the moor.
Right.
So we're gonna, contact the DOT and check on this and see how we should get started, or basic questions. Could somebody talk to us?
Yeah, I can get the ball rolling, try to get their initial input on this.
And just a quick note too, I believe the whole property is inside the city limits, so you may need to talk to our planning and building department as well.
Okay.
Planning and building at the city? Okay.
And Josh, are you up in there a lot?
In Hospital Creek,
Mm-hmm.
there's not enough water for me to get.
That's what I was wondering, what's going on there dead low? Because I've got a 25-foot boat, and I won't go up in there on any kind of dead low.
I know me and FWC were in their Pathfinder the other day,
That doesn't draft anything.
get all the way to the Hospital Creek Bridge
Bridge.
to go to the D&B.
What was the tide?
It's just a normal low tide.
Was it dead low? I mean, okay.
Dead low, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure those homeowners would love to have that dredged. I know the ones that rest of Hospital Creek, plus going into it's getting a little hump, it's building up. Maybe that should be our next project.
Especially the guy with the Jupiter right there on the end.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he needs.
Right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
My feeling about this is, I agree with Sandy's idea, but people are already using this. People already park down there. Sometimes that space is filled up completely. I'm just wondering if maybe we better let Wellnup alone.
Well,
We're not having to put any money into it. They're launching kayaks there every single day.
If you look, Mr. Withers,
I agree to, for Taylor to look into it, see what it entails, but also keep in mind that it's being used for that.
it is being used with great difficulty. A lot of the problems, we can fix this for kayaking, non-motorized launching, just with some heavy Coskina sand and rock. If you see those 3 cars, and you just look to the left of that.
Okay, those 3 cars at an extreme high tide are going to be underwater.
No, sir. No, sir, I've been there.
That's one problem you've got there, is it's very low.
Yes, I've been there at extreme high tides, and that actually, right there, is not so bad. It maybe once or twice a year. But if you see those 2 big things that could be filled in with some rock and some sand, you've tripled your area for people just to pull in there and park. It would not take much just to turn that in, literally rock and sand without going too crazy, to make it into a dawn till dusk or dusk to dawn kayak launch, non-motorized kayak launch. Somebody's out there fishing this morning. So yeah, it is being used. It's just, I feel like we're derelict in our duty of having a decent boat landing for people to use. Why should they have to drive through the mud and break their car? And it keeps them, of course, keeps all that non-motorized out of the big boat landing over at Usina. It's tough to put, 5-year-old kids on a kayak with you in that kind of current too.
Why don't we just continue talking about this?
Yeah.
We really can't do anything about it
We'll hear
today.
back from Mike.
I'm
See what's gonna be
This,
solved.
the schedule said it was a proposed boat ramp. That's why I brought up the fact about the water depth, but if you're talking about just a paddleboard and a kayak launch, I guess you'd have to see the cost benefit of that.
The kayak launch is right there.
Yep.
So it's really in the city property, I guess.
Yeah, he said it was all city property, but.
Yeah, all of it.
City limits. It's inside the city limits.
All right, so Mike, let us know what happens next meeting.
Will do.
Okay.
Mr. Piggott, do you know about anything about the fishing wall at the end of Pine Street on Hospital Creek there? If you were just going south from this picture, have you heard anything at all about the city wanting to shut that down? No. Okay.
Have you heard that?
Yes, I have. I've heard from my neighbors that they are in fact proceeding with that. So it's been very concerned, and I can't get anybody to help tell me who's talking about it. But they were talking about that was in fact legal, I was told, to shut down the whole from Water Street to the end of Pine. They were going to put grass on it and give it away to the 2 abutters.
They're gonna give it to private property?
That's what I was told, sir.
We're going to abandon it.
Are you a member of the sauna?
No, I'm not, but I go down there all the time.
The neighborhood, well, I thought so. It's the only point, it's the last point in the city where a person could get into the water. Downtown. Okay.
All right. Government representative comments.
Jim Piggott, City of St. Augustine. I got 3 items. First of all, we got a quote back for that boat that is sunk next to Conte Patel's boat ramp, and we're going to be applying for an FWC grant. The grant covers 3/4 of it, and we're looking for the port, since it's inside the city limits, for the other quarter. It's $15,000 total, which would be $3,750 on the port side, if you so choose, to support the removal of that vessel. Mr. Patel offered, once the grant's been approved, to pay for it, and then the grant would pay him back. We've reached out, and we got 3 quotes, only one was responsive, and that was a $15,000 quote that we received.
Jim, how'd that boat get there?
Broke loose, drifted down, and sunk, I believe. You'd have to ask law enforcement, but
He's
it's
got
been
it.
there for like 5-6 months, if
Yeah.
not longer, and they know who the owner is. They brought, the owner said, I want a jury by trial. The district attorney said, okay, law enforcement, you have the permission, our permission now to remove the vessel, because we couldn't touch it beforehand because it was in the court's hands.
Connie's got bad luck on that dock.
It's right next to the dock, his dock, in the city limits. Yes,
Is it,
Patel's dock.
Is that a home?
That's a home. I've checked on the property appraiser survey to verify that is city limits. It's not on his.
Not his,
Some
yeah.
land goes out,
Yeah.
that doesn't.
Okay, so you need $37.50 from us
Yes.
to do it.
What's in our budget, we've
Yeah.
got money left
Yeah.
over in that.
You know,
Derelict.
I would say we make a motion, I'd make a motion to go ahead and approve that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
The second item I have, this was discovered by FWC. There's no FWC rep here today. However, by the Doug Crane boat ramp, there are 2 new derelict boats sunk there, almost like they're right next to each other, like Siamese twins. District Attorney informed us 2 days ago that those are now derelict. We do not have a price to yet pull those. That's in the county waters, if you will. So we're going to apply to find, to have those removed, and there's a 25% match. I'll come back to you when we know what that is. I don't believe it's going to be anywhere close to the 15,000.
Are they power boats or sailboats?
What are they, Josh?
They're power boats.
2
Power
power
boats?
boats, okay.
I thought one was a sail, yeah, 2 power boats.
They're cabin cruisers.
Okay.
There's also a sailboat up on the mud down there.
Yeah,
too,
there's
right?
3 others, if you remember, like 5 months ago, you all approved, and Towboat US or Towboat has been trying to get out the perfect high tide, and they're just having a hard time timing that. But those 3 have already been contracted out, we're just waiting, just getting them out of there. We're calling them at least 3 times a week on that. And then the last thing, I know it's getting close to budget season. The only 2 items that we have for the budget is no change from the previous years, is we want to do another dredging and salt run, which is $50,000 from the port money, $150,000 from fine, and then $8,000 overtime for the police and fire department. If you remember last year about this time, we came up to you and the fire department is going out 5 busy times a year. So they're using part of that $8,000, so we're not asking for anything different. We believe even with the new police boat, that $8,000 should be okay. So this will be the first year trial run on that. The police boat, Jerry Whitehead and Carl Masters, who's our fleet maintenance guy who does all the repairing our vehicles and boats and so on and so forth, they drove to Alabama last week to take a look at the boat. It's about 65-70% complete. They're putting finishing touches on it, and they should be done by the end of this month, middle of June. So we should hopefully have that in the water, I'm not going to say 4th of July, but maybe around there sometime. And that's all I have, unless you have anything for me.
No questions or anything? Anybody? Nope, okay. Thank you, sir. Law enforcement.
Josh Underwood from the Sheriff's Office Marine Unit. Last port meeting to this port meeting, we've had 139 hours on the water, 82 calls for service, 14 written warnings for boating safety material that they're missing, flares, life jackets, sound producing device, something of that nature, wake zones, and also expired, not expired, but registration not on their boat within that 30-day window, the FL numbers. We wrote 6 tickets in this time period, and they were all for no navigation lights at night. We've got no new derelicts. We worked a joint operation this past week from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. every night, focusing on navigation rules and lighting with FWC, CBP, the Sheriff's Office, and then NOAA Fisheries for the shrimp boats. And those were the boats, or the clientele that we stopped for the citations for no navigation lights. 2 of those boats that we stopped that got citations were commercial shrimp boats that were running with no nav lights at night. And then today we participated in our monthly helicopter Coast Guard training, which Commissioner Wade was at and took some photos for us.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I've got the disc. Maybe next week or next time we can figure out how to use that and put it up there, but it was pretty interesting.
There is a lot of people that we've noticed that are running around at night with no navigation lights whatsoever. And the excuses we're getting are either they don't bring them with them because they snap in and they get in the way, or they just don't want to run them because they don't want people to see where they're at fishing. So that was the excuse from the shrimp trawlers. They don't want people to know where they're fishing, so that's why they don't run them.
Well, when they're doing that, are they too close to shore or something? They really don't want...
The boats that got sighted weren't even offshore yet. They were outbound. So they were coming through the harbor with no lights.
Odd.
That's all I have, unless you guys have questions for me.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Chris Passetti, St. Augustine Fire Department. Just to follow up with Josh, we did, the helo ops did several hours of training. We were on the water about 32 hours or so. 11 emergency calls for service that we went out for, a couple other assist government agencies with water samples and things like that. So we appreciate you coming out today and joining us for that. So it's pretty interesting training that we're trying to keep moving along with and knocking out. So any questions for us on the fire side? Good.
Chris, here's that disc.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Government? Public comment? Anybody from the public?
I'm Ellis Zara, 9167 Old Day One Way, St. Augustine. For those of you that I haven't spoken before, I'm with the Friends of the Summerhaven River. And we've worked with this board, this authority, since 2008. So we're 11 years into the project. And that's one reason I wanted to come forward, just as a point of clarification. It does seem like this project was ongoing before the hurricane. We started in 2008. The river filled in with sand after a breach. It was apparent that the county and the state really couldn't take the initiative, so a group of private citizens formed the Friends of the Summerhaven River, got over 3,000 manually signed support letters. Was not done electronically. We went to the state to see what could be done about restoring the river, and we were told that we as citizens couldn't do it because it took a governmental entity to hold a permit because it's sovereign lands under the river. We came to the Port Authority, and they graciously said they would hold the permit if we would support them with the labor and effort that was necessary to see the project through, and that they would prefer not to spend any money on it, but just simply to be the permit holder. So that's how we embarked on this in 2008. The port subsequently did have to spend some money. I think the last figure I heard was in the $125,000 range, but be that as it may, the Friends of the Summer Haven River got $4 million in financing from the state, funding from the state, which is the money that is referred to here when you hear about what's being spent. And I just offer that as a point of clarification, because I think sometimes when I'm sitting out here, I realize that maybe the loop isn't closed, and you were not wrong in thinking something might have started before, before it actually did. In fact, interestingly enough, we got the $2,900,000 in financing in July of 2016, after all the permits and everything were done and got ready to roll, and Matthew hit. And so we really weren't underway yet, but we're about to get underway. And there's a whole lot of iterations that go on in the interim. All of that being said, I do have a couple of questions because I'm confused, and I might turn to Mike just to ask them. You mentioned that the project may be substantially concluded in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and I realize that's, you can't really tell.
The contractor has told me it'll take him 2 to 3 weeks to finish what he can do right now. I mean, we're still waiting on more money from FEMA. Yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath, but we're told that money is coming. But with the money that we have right now in the bank, what's contracted to Turnbull, they will finish within 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, you've jumped ahead to one question I had, and that's whether the $126,000 balance has the 92 that we're expecting from FEMA in it. It does not. That's not received yet.
And, I mean, that balance, that does not reflect work done to date?
Yes.
Because some work has not been invoiced yet?
We were hoping or planning that 92 from FEMA would be over and above what was necessary to complete the project of dredging, and that it would really go to sand fencing and planting of the dunes. But are we going to come out okay on that?
Yeah, the 92,000 is still currently unallocated, so we can put that towards plantings, mangroves in the river if you want, sand fencing. I mean, that's open for discussion.
Well, we would like, if we could, to chat and see how we go from this point. I'm personally, and I'm not speaking for the Friends now, but just personally looking at it, and I'm about as far from an engineer as you can get. But it's surprising to me that the dredge can work as far north as we understood it was going, which was just north of the Parker property, where we've sent pictures of how it shoaled in there when the sand bridges and the stockpile sand flowed back into the river. But if it can go up as where we originally discussed it going, and then turn around and hit those high points in the river in the next couple of weeks or however long it takes within the budget, that's our understanding of what was said earlier. Am I correct?
The references that you're using, I'm not exactly sure where they are off the top of my head. We're limited by how far north we can go based on the power of the dredge, because if you go too far north, you have to bring a booster pump in, and that's really expensive. So that's one reason why we can't go as far north as you guys had mentioned a couple of weeks ago.
Well, we understood you couldn't go back out to the mouth of the river, and we really don't know how far you can go. But there are areas where the the dredge has been before and successfully dredged out, which would probably comply with the template. But now it's refilled in because of the sand bridges and the stockpiling. And we marked that with Turnbull as just what I call north of the Parker property. If you could just see if that's feasible, that's what we were led to believe was not a problem. And then to turn around, and I think you've seen the pictures looking south on the river at low tide. There seem to be a lot of high points out there, and we're encouraged if that's where we're headed, to get all of that done within the time frame.
Yes, I will talk to Turnbull and see where he's at with respect to the Parker property and get back to you. And, yeah, they do plan on turning around and walking the dredge back and hitting those high points to smooth out the channel.
Okay.
So that's the plan.
And realizing that this is a private and public partnership between the Friends and a public authority, if the information requested by Commissioner Flowers could be shared with us, that it's going to come from Taylor, we'd appreciate it. We have been tasked for being y'all's feet on the ground, and we've not ever had that kind of information. It might be helpful, it would be helpful for us if that is satisfactory to you all.
Personally, I don't see any problem. Anybody have an issue with that? No? No. Make it so.
Public record.
Okay.
And every invoice that we've sent to Elise, we have to accompany that with a project summary of the work that is covered under that invoice. So that's the information I can send you.
Fine.
You're great.
Yep.
Right, and we give that information to DEP as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Public comment, anybody else? Oh, okay. Comments by commissioners. Commissioner Way, any comments?
Nope.
No? Commissioner Rivers? Nope. Commissioner Brown?
I just wanted to quickly mention, I've been in touch with the Army Corps of Engineers office in Jacksonville, and they're going to have a representative come to our next meeting and talk about the work they're doing in Volano now, and then also the inlet study that's been proposed.
Awesome.
So we'll get a little clarity on that.
Excellent, okay. Commissioner Flowers?
Just have two questions. One is, do we normally have an Army Corps of Engineer rep here every month, or they just come when we ask them?
Come, we ask.
We ask.
And the FEMA money you were talking about is not allocated. Is that the money we voted a few months ago to accept from FEMA, $92,000?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is that money supposed to be accepted on behalf of the Summer Haven project to go into that? And you say it's not been reallocated? Is it going into our general fund, or when it comes?
It's supposed to go into the project.
Okay, so we weren't told that when we voted on it. We were, it just would have been nice to know that we were accepting money for a specific project. It wasn't, explained that way. So when that does come in, the Summer Haven account has that money, and if there's any money left over from dredging or what have you, they can do these fences and sand blockers or whatever with that money?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's all. All right. Next meeting,
18th.
June 18th. Okay, that's it. Nothing else, we're adjourned. Okay.
Because the trim begins July 1st, for the June meeting, I'm probably going to have the last year's rate, rollback rate, and we might have to vote on that.
Okay. Put it in the emails, that's good. Okay, all right.
All right, John?
Cheers.
That's